So, let's move on to the most anticipated analysis. The main event of UFC 325, featuring Alexander Volkanovski defending his featherweight title against Diego Lopes, who will be looking to capture that belt. Let's break down the fight and see who will leave the octagon with the belt. First, Diego Lopes. He's a very versatile fighter, strong in striking, capable of submissions, though he primarily prefers stand-up exchanges. In the UFC, he has had 8 fights, with 6 wins and 2 losses. Lopes' last fight was a TKO victory over Gene Silva. Previously, he secured wins over fighters like Brian Ortega by decision, and he also has multiple TKO and submission wins, including a submission over Gavin Tucker. His only UFC losses were a debut defeat to Movsar Evlov by unanimous decision and a unanimous decision loss to Alexander Volkanovski at UFC 314 for the featherweight title. Lopes is still relatively young at 31 years old, compared to Volkanovski, who is 37. Now, let's look at Alexander Volkanovski. He's the UFC featherweight champion, extremely experienced, and very versatile. Volkanovski can strike, wrestle, and fight effectively on the ground. He has excellent footwork, maintains constant pressure, and adapts well to different opponents. Volkanovski's last fight against Lopes ended in a unanimous decision victory. Before that, he faced top fighters like Islam Makhachev, Ilia Topuria, and Yair Rodriguez, with wins and losses that show his ability to compete at the highest level. He has also defeated Max Holloway twice, and Jose Aldo, defending his title multiple times. Volkanovski is the bookmaker favorite, while Diego Lopes is considered the underdog. My prediction: Alexander Volkanovski will likely win by decision after 5 rounds, using his experience, pressure, and versatility. That said, Diego Lopes is dangerous. One clean shot could change everything, and a TKO or knockout is always possible. But overall, I expect Volkanovski to retain his featherweight belt. So, moving on to the co-main event of UFC 325, where Dan Hooker will face Benoit Saint-Denis. Let's break down their strengths and weaknesses and see who might come out on top: the French Commando or the New Zealand Sniper. Starting with Dan Hooker, the underdog in this matchup. Hooker's style is primarily kickboxing and striking. When it comes to grappling, he mostly uses it to get back to his feet and defend against takedowns rather than actively seeking submissions. Hooker is coming off a loss to Arman Tsarukyan at the November UFC Fight Night, where he was finished quickly in the second round via triangle choke. However, prior to that, he secured a very important win over Mateusz Gamrot, showing he's still a dangerous fighter in the lightweight division. Overall, Hooker is very experienced, having faced top competition in the division. He has losses to top-level fighters, including Dustin Poirier, but also some inconsistent performances. After his last fight, Hooker mentioned that he's probably not chasing the belt anymore. He just wants to disrupt other fighters' dreams. This sets up perfectly for a matchup with St. Denis, who, after his win over Beneil Dariush, has made it clear that he's aiming for an interim title fight. On paper, Hooker has better physical tools in terms of reach, and as we know, a kickboxer with reach advantage is always dangerous in striking exchanges. So, his best path to victory here is winning in the striking department or landing a knockout. Now, moving on to Benoit Saint-Denis. He has a clear physical advantage in terms of strength and pressure. He's solid, powerful, and knows how to control the pace. Even Dustin Poirier, who ultimately finished him via TKO, had trouble dealing with his clinch and pressure at times. Saint-Denis also has a clearly superior grappling game compared to Hooker, as he's demonstrated multiple times. He's secured submissions over fighters like Ruffy and Kyle Prepolek. This shows he can not only take opponents down but also finish fights effectively on the ground. Currently, Saint-Denis is on a winning streak, including a key victory over Beneil Dariush, and he's likely looking to continue this momentum to move closer to an interim title fight. In my opinion, Saint-Denis has more paths to victory. He can win by TKO, submission, or even decision if he controls the fight. Hooker's chances mainly lie in striking exchanges or a potential knockout, but I believe Saint-Denis' physical advantage, grappling, and pressure will be the deciding factors. Hooker is more experienced, but St. Denis is younger, hungry, and a very strong competitor. Moving on to another exciting matchup at UFC 325, we have a lightweight clash between Ataman Rafael Fiziev and one-shot Mauricio Ruffi. Let's start with the underdog, Mauricio Ruffi. The 29-year-old Brazilian is a pure striker who prefers to keep the fight standing. He holds a 3-1 record in the UFC and remained undefeated in the organization until his most recent fight, where he lost to Benoit Saint-Denis via submission in the second round. Before that loss, Ruffi picked up multiple wins, including a victory on Dana White's Contender Series, which earned him a UFC contract. He's dangerous on the feet, fast, explosive, and always looking for a knockout. Now let's talk about Rafael Fiziev. One of the most technical strikers in the lightweight division, Fiziev comes from a Muay Thai background and is known for his speed, precision, and devastating kicks. He currently holds a 7-4 record in the UFC and will be looking to build momentum after snapping a losing streak. Fiziev has beaten high-level opponents such as Rafael dos Anjos, King Green, Renato Moicano, and Ignacio Bahamondes. However, he has also faced elite competition, suffering losses to Justin Gaethje twice and Mateusz Gamrot. In this matchup, the fight is likely to stay on the feet. Ruffi has power and explosiveness, but Fiziev's experience, technique, and fight IQ give him the edge. My prediction: Rafael Fiziev wins by KO, TKO, or decision. Mauricio Ruffi is dangerous early, but over time, Fiziev's striking accuracy and experience should be the deciding factors. Moving on to the next fight we'll be analyzing at UFC 325, we have a heavyweight matchup between Bam Bam, Tai Tuivasa, and Talison Teixeira. Let's start with Talison Teixeira. He currently holds a 1-1 record in the UFC. In his debut, Teixeira made a huge statement by knocking out Justin Tafa in the first round, earning a Performance of the Night bonus. However, in his second UFC appearance, he suffered a first-round TKO loss to Derek Lewis. Teixeira is a striker with an overall 8-1 MMA record and is only 26 years old, which is very young for the heavyweight division. He earned his UFC contract through Dana White's Contender Series and is still relatively untested at the highest level. Now let's talk about Tai Tuivasa. The more experienced fighter in this matchup, Tuivasa has a 14-8 professional record and an 8-8 record in the UFC. He's a pure striker known for his power and aggressive style. In the past, he's scored big wins over fighters like Derek Lewis and Augusto Sakai. However, Tuivasa is currently on a 5-fight losing streak, having lost to Cyril Gane, Sergey Pavlovich, Alexander Volkov, Marcin Tybura, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Because of this fight could be a real make-or-break moment for him. My prediction: this is a tough one, as Teixeira is still largely untested in the UFC. He's shown power, but also vulnerability. Because of his experience and durability, I'm leaning toward Tai Tuivasa winning by knockout or TKO, likely in the early rounds. Hit the subscribe button if you want more honest MMA takes and fight breakdowns. Thank you for watching.